Today on Know the Truth from Philip de Courcy.
Life is a sum of all your choices. You put all of those 1,788,500 choices together, and what you get is you and the choices you made. Because you see, we make our choices, and once we've made our choices make us.
Some people view life as a game of luck with results as random as the lottery. But today on Know the Truth, Philip de Courcy explains that life is not the result of your chances, it's the result of choices. It's a lesson from the series Off Color, dealing with unwelcome emotions. And if you'd like to visit any other message in this series, you'll find it at ktt.org or listen on the KTT app. Now, here's Philip de Courcy with a message titled, It's Time to Decide.
Okay, take your Bible and turn to Psalm 25. Psalm 25. We're going to start a two-part sermon this morning entitled, It's Time to Decide. It's time to decide. We're in a series Off Color, dealing with unwelcome emotions. And we've kind of color-coded emotions around these ideas. White with fear, blue with depression, red with anger, black with guilt. We've covered those. And this morning we're coming to start a two-part sermon, gray with indecision. Maybe you're kind of stuck. Maybe there's a sense of uncertainty and insecurity with you about the future and what you need to be doing next and where you need to be going with your life. Well, we want to address that from Psalm 25. I want to help you become a good decision maker. I want to help you think through the choices that life and providence has set before you. And we're going to help you decide from Psalm 25. This is a psalm of David, and it's a plea for deliverance and forgiveness and guidance in the midst of life's challenges. To you, O Lord, I lift up my soul. O my God, I trust in you. Let me not be ashamed. Let not my enemies triumph over me. Indeed, let no one who waits on you be ashamed. Let those be ashamed who deal treacherously without cause. Show me your ways, O Lord. Teach me your paths. Lead me in your truth and teach me, for you are the God of my salvation. On you I wait all the day. Remember, O Lord, your tender mercies and your loving kindnesses, for they are from of old. Do not remember the sins of my youth, nor my transgressions. According to your mercy, remember me for your goodness' sake, O Lord. Good and upright is the Lord. Therefore, he teaches sinners in the way. The humble he guides in justice, and the humble he teaches his way. All the paths of the Lord are mercy and truth, to such as keep his covenant and his testimonies. For your name's sake, O Lord, pardon my iniquity, for it is great. Who is the man that fears the Lord? Him shall he teach in the way he chooses. He himself shall dwell in prosperity, and his descendants shall inherit the earth. The secret of the Lord is with those who fear him, and he will show them his covenant. My eyes are ever toward the Lord, for he shall pluck my feet out of the net. Turn yourself to me and have mercy on me, for I am desolate and afflicted. The troubles of my heart have enlarged. Bring me out of my distresses. Look on my affliction and my pain, and forgive all my sins. Consider my enemies, for they are many, and they hate me with a cruel hatred. Keep my soul and deliver me. Let me not be ashamed, for I put my trust in you. Let integrity and uprightness preserve me, for I wait for you. Redeem Israel, O God, out of all their troubles. I like the story of the foreign exchange student who had come to the United States for further education, and his English wasn't that good, and he was given an English coach to help him along the way. And so to get things started, the coach says, look, you're going to become proficient on this, but in the meantime, I've got to get you some basic language, especially as it relates food and drink. And so while we're waiting for you to kind of get better at English, here's what I want you to do. Anytime you go into a restaurant, at least for a while here, I just want you to order hamburger, fries, Coke. Can you remember that? 3 simple words: hamburger, fries, Coke. The guy says, I think I can remember that. And for several weeks, that's what he did. Everywhere he went, whatever restaurant he was in, hamburgers, fries, and Coke. Well, after about a month of this, he was getting a little sick of hamburgers, fries, and Coke. So he asked his coach, is there something else I can order? He says, well, you've progressed in your English, but still not that good, so we need to keep it simple. Tell you what we'll do. Do you like breakfast? He says, I love breakfast. Here's what I'm going to teach you. Every time you go into a restaurant, you can ask for eggs, toast, and juice. Remember that? 3 simple words like hamburger, fries, Coke, eggs, toast, and juice. And he said, I can remember that. So next morning, gets up. He's excited about a change in his menu, a change in his diet. And he goes down to a restaurant, and he says to the waitress, you know what? I'd like eggs, toast, and juice. Without her looking up, she says, well, will that be scrambled eggs, fried eggs, boiled eggs, poached eggs? Over easy or Beggs Benedict. Do you want white toast, rye toast, wheat toast? You want orange juice, apple juice, grape juice, prune juice, grapefruit juice? Well, he's startled and stunned. He looks up and he says, hamburger, fries, Coke. I love this story. I don't know if it's true, but I think the experience is true. Imagine settling in our great nation from another nation and learning a new language. But the story, we can feel his frustration. Decisions. Life was not a choice for any of us. Our mother and father decided to have a child, and you were it. Life is not a choice for any one of us, but once we are alive, life is full of choices. Our journey through life will invariably bring us to certain crossroads where we need to decide this way or that way, this thing or that thing. When it comes to marriage and singleness, will it be this road or that road? When it comes to our career, will it be this road or that road? When it comes to our character development and formation, will it be this path or that path? Ultimately, we will come to heaven or hell, this road or that road. Jesus talked about that, right? There's the broad road and there's the narrow road. Choose. You see, sooner or later, we all pull up to junctures where 2 roads diverge. And it's decisions. In fact, I was reading a book on choice and making good decisions this week. And in the book, the author quotes a Columbia researcher by the name of Sheena Iyengar, who found that the average person makes about 70 conscious decisions every day. All right? So in a given year, you and I make 25,550 decisions a year. If you and I live to be 70 years of age, we will have made 1,788,500 decisions. Life is a sum of all your choices. You put all of those 1,788,500 choices together, and what you get is you and the choices you made. Because you see, we make our choices, and once we've made our choices make us. Life is the sum of all your choices. And you know what? On the one hand, that's a sacred thing. That's a beautiful thing. That's a welcome thing, that you and I have choices. Made in the image of God, we have rationality. We have the distinct ability to choose. I mean, no sooner was Adam and Eve brought into existence and they faced a choice. God said, you know what, there's a tree of life in the middle of the garden. The fruit you can't take. The rest of the trees, you can choose whatever you want. From the very moment they drew breath, Adam and Eve were faced with a choice. Choosing is pivotal to our personhood. It is one of the unique facets of being a human being. It distinguishes us from the rest of creation. Animals are driven by instinct and environment. They are creatures of habit. But by contrast, you and I, made in the image of God, have been given responsibility and the freedom to choose. We can create for ourselves the alternatives of choice. Think about that. That's why there's a judgment day coming. where God will ask us to explain our choices and the things we did in our bodies, right? 2 Corinthians 5:9-11. Animals aren't going to parade before their Creator and give an account for their choices. We are, because we are moral beings endowed with choice and responsibility, and God expects us to choose wisely and well on the path for His greater glory. So in one thing, decisions, but that's a sacred thing. On the other hand, decisions, that's a scary thing. As I've said earlier, we make our decisions, then the decisions we make us. We are the accumulation of the choices we've made. To a large degree this morning, fundamentally speaking, who you are and what you are doing and where you are living, you chose. What we say or think, what we do, who we are with, where we go, all add up to the life we have. One writer puts it like this: we go through doors, and what we find on the other side is the person we have become. So on the one hand, choosing is a sacred thing, a gift and a privilege from God, unique to human beings within the creation. On the other hand, it's scary because it endows us with responsibility, and good and bad choices have consequences. And that's weighty, and we feel it. Every decision is an exchange. Have you thought about that? Now, we could talk about small and great decisions. When I use the word decision here, or the idea of choice here, I'm really thinking about the big ticket items: marriage, life, character, church, national life. Every decision is an exchange. Every time you and I make a choice, we're swapping one thing for another. And you and I need to think that out, because that has consequences. Remember, Jesus even took that language up. Matthew 16:26. What shall it profit a man if he gains the whole wide world and loses his soul? What will a man give in exchange for his soul? Life, with all of its choices, is an exchange. A trading of one thing for another. And that's why life is constantly asking us to make value judgments. That's why we need discernment. That's why we need to seek God's will. That's why we need divine insight and intuition, because every decision we make is a value judgment. We're deciding that's better than that. That's more than that. So I'm going for that. And you know what? If we get the evaluation wrong, there's a price to be paid. And that's scary. And some people wilt under that. Some people are paralyzed by the thought of choice. They don't want to make choices because they know that you're deciding between one thing and another. And how do you know what's the best decision? And once you've made that decision, just say you've made the wrong decision. You want to talk about a poor exchange? All we need to do is look at the life of Esau. An amazing story. We don't have time to go there, but back in the book of Genesis, you read his story. In chapter 25, he comes back from a hunting trip, and we're not told what went on there, but when he gets back, he's exhausted. He's thirsty, he's hungry. In fact, he's on the verge of collapsing. He even thinks he may be dying. So I don't know what led to that, but when he comes home, his brother Jacob is making some stew, and he goes stumbling into the kitchen, and he smells the stew, and he asks for some. And I don't know what's going on between those brothers, but Jacob wouldn't give him unless he promised something in exchange. And Esau was so desperate, what did he do? He says, I'll give you my birthright for a cup of soup. I'll give you my birthright for a bowl of stew. Now, at that moment, that seemed like the right thing to do. But he would live to regret that foolish decision. He gave away his inheritance and the generational blessings of his children for a bowl of stew. Crazy stuff. But people are capable of crazy, aren't you? It's scary, the power of decisions and the responsibility of choice. Because every decision is an exchange leading to a consequence. Paul says, right, in Galatians 6, verse 7, what a man sows, that shall he reap. The path he chooses, the choices he makes, the direction he takes, all have consequences. Fundamentally, what, who, and where you are, you decided it. Think about poor Moses. One solitary, momentary, emotional, foolish act of disobedience when he struck the rock cost him the promised land. Numbers 20:8-12. And what that reminds me is that decisions are utterly consequential. Now, we're not talking about the color of your socks and the pattern on your blouse or whether you're going to drive a Ford or a Tesla. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about marriage, friendship, business, life, family, career, church, national life. Decisions are utterly consequential. As Moses proves, one bad decision can undo a lot of good decisions. That's why I love the old traditional vows for marriage. You know what? Are you sure you want this woman? Are you sure you want this guy? Because it's going to mean either riches or poverty, sickness or health. You're in for it all. And you make a wrong choice, they'll make you sick and they'll make you poor. Kind of just having you step back and like, Ecclesiastes 5, before you make a vow before the Lord, make sure you're going to pay it, because when you make a vow, you make a choice, there is a price to pay. One Princeton professor, Walter Kaufman, calls it decidophobia. Decidophobia. Some people have decidophobia. That is their fear of making decisions. Because they know that in making a decision, you're going to make an exchange, a trade, a swap. You got to be careful. And then once you've made that decision, there's a consequence that comes with it. And the other thing to remember in that is, by the way, if you don't make a decision about that thing, you've made a decision about that thing. You can't run from decisions. No decision is a decision. And the other thing to remember about that is that God's not going to just hold us accountable for the things we did, but for the things we didn't do. There's the sin of commission and there's the sin of omission. What's the sin of commission? That's doing what we're forbidden. What's the sin of omission? Not doing what we're commanded. All right? A little boy was asked, what's the difference between sins of commission and sins of omission? He says, I think the sin of commission is the sins we commit, and the sin of omission is the sins we never got round to committing. Well, no, that's not it. The sin of commission is doing what you're not meant to do. God's going to hold you accountable. But the sin of omission is actually not doing what you're meant to do. And the sin of omission challenges us in this area of decision making. We don't get not to make a decision. You can't be passive in life. God's going to hold you and me accountable for our passivity. What we didn't do, the decisions we didn't make, the bravery we didn't show. Before I move on, I love the story of Ronald Reagan. Always good for a story. What great storyteller, wasn't he? Well, he tells the story when he was a boy, he was offered a really nice pair of shoes that were going to be handmade and hand sewn. And he goes down to this shoemaker who's got a great reputation in the community, and he kind of orders up these beautiful leather shoes, leather up and leather sole. And the guy says, look, I'm going to make you these in the next few days. I need to know, do you want square toes or round toes? And Reagan says, I really don't know. Give me a day or two. Day or two goes by. He actually happened to be going past the shop, and the cobbler comes out and says, well, round or square? He says, I really don't know. And that went on for a few days, where Reagan didn't make his mind up until the cobbler called up his home and told his mother, you know what, send Ronald down, I've made his shoes. And young Ronald Reagan goes down, gets his brand new pair of shoes, opens up the box, and one is square and one is round. It's a true story. And Ronald Reagan says that day as a young boy, he learned that if you don't make the decisions for you, someone else will make them for you. There's just no escaping decisions and choices. So, all of that said, it's a sacred thing to be able to make a choice. It's a scary thing to have to make a choice, but it's all solvable. It's a solvable thing. Because God has set down in His Word patterns and principles by which you and I can govern our choices. And I find that here in Psalm 25. You know what the psalmist said in Psalm 48, verse 18? Write this down. It's so encouraging that God is willing to be our guide even unto death. From the moment we're born to the moment we die, God is available as the shepherd to lead his sheep. God's willing to coach us in life. Look at actually verse 14 of this psalm. Notice this. The secret of the Lord is with those who fear him, and he will show them his covenant. I think some of the modern translations says this, that God will take them into his confidence. If you fear him and you love him and you submit yourself to him, here's a promise. God's going to take you into his confidence and show you his plan for life and your life. That's beautiful. So let's look at Psalm 25, where you have that promise that God is willing to be our friend and counselor. Now, Psalm 25 is written by David. You'll see that in the superscription above verse 1. We don't know the context of the text, but it's a context of conflict. We can't identify a particular time in David's life that we would attach this to, but there were plenty of episodes in David's life where his life was in trouble or under threat, and that's where we're at in Psalm 25. Just look at verses 3 and 19. He's facing threatening and treacherous enemies. Let not my enemies triumph over me. Verses 2 and 3 and verse 19. He's lonely and afflicted. Look at verse 16. For I am desolate and afflicted. And then you'll notice that he's stressed and distressed. Verses 17 and 18. The troubles of my heart have enlarged. Bring me out of my distresses. Look on my affliction and my pain. So David's in conflict, and what's interesting is that he's got to make decisions about his life. And decisions are tough enough, but decisions are made tougher in tough times. And so he seeks God's counsel. You'll see in verses 6 and 7 and verse 16, he seeks God's grace. Lord, remember me. Show your mercy for goodness' sake. Verse 16, be gracious to me. Show me mercy. He not only asks for grace, he asks for guardianship. Verse 2, I trust you, let me not be ashamed. Don't throw me to the wolves. Don't feed me to the sharks. Don't have them triumph where I'm exposed to shame and scandal. Don't allow that for your glory and your sake. Don't allow that. Protect me. Verses 20, 22, keep my soul. Deliver me, let me not be ashamed. May my integrity and uprightness preserve me. But he really is asking also for guidance, and this is where you and I are most interested.
You're listening to Know the Truth and the start of a message called It's Time to Decide. If you joined us late today, you can revisit this lesson at ktt.org or, as always, on the KTT app and podcast. Well, as you listen today, it's our hope that this message encourages you to be wiser and more intentional when it comes to making choices, because they all have lasting impact. And that's why every day at Know the Truth, we choose to share the gospel with a world in need of truth. When listeners across the radio and internet encounter the Word of God, choices are made, lives are changed, and eternal destinies are rerouted as a result. It's the most important decision there is. And it's because of generous listeners like you that many will have the chance to hear this life-changing truth. So this month, we invite you to partner with us. Would you give a one-time gift of any amount, or sign up to give monthly as a Truth Ambassador? The number to call is 888-644-8811, or give online at ktt.org. You can also send your donation by mail. Write to us at Know the Truth, Post Office Box 30250, Anaheim Hills, California, 92809. As our way of saying thanks for your generous donation, we'll send you the Off-Color Dealing with Unwelcome Emotions Study Guide and Devotional. Again, call 888-644-8811 or visit ktt.org. And while you're there, be sure to look for the free gift for new listeners and those who've never reached out before. Visit ktt.org to learn more and request yours today. That's all our time for today. I'm Wayne Shepherd. Join us next time for more Bible teaching from Philip de Courcy here on Know the Truth. Today's program was produced and sponsored by Know the Truth Incorporated. Jesus said, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free."